Hello YouTube, it is Damien. It is the Rise of a Nation. It is episode 85. It is meant to be the end of season review. It is not. This is its own little episode because it needs to be. It has finally happened, and after years of trying, we have finally gone and done it. And we have been offered the Danish job. We are finally going to be in international management with the Denmark team. We have been knocked back for 6 years, I reckon. 6 years we've been knocked back. It's taken us to go and do the double to get through the group stage of the Champions League for them to go, yeah, maybe he can manage. Even though the last 2 times we tried it, they hired coaches that had less reputation than myself. I understood when they gave it to Rafa over me, and I actually took that on the chin. I was like, look, Rafa's Rafa. Apart from that, every other coach did not agree with after that. We thought we should have had it maybe about a couple of years ago, especially for the last couple of years when we've started getting Rafa out the job. We have finally gone and done it. Yes, we're accepting the offer. We are officially Danish manager. Now, as you can see, in the section of retire me, sacked, I always, in order to get the job, unless the job eventually generates, Rafa resigns or whatever, it barely happens with teams inside the top 20 unless they have a very poor European or World Cup campaign. We have finally got the job. So what I'll do is I actually add the new manager in called Retire Me Sacked. I do just to make sure I remember to retire him. And then retire him straight away after giving him the Danish job. And we go for the interview process. I feel like that's at least a nice way of doing it because the game actually goes, yes, you have gone through the interview process. It is finally time that we got this job. Wealth experience, always a subject of considerable criticism. In 2005, we got exited by Frem. Yeah. Look, I love that they've gone straight to a negative there. Don't talk about that I beat Barcelona with SFB in the knockout rounds, or I didn't get through a group or anything like that. Let's talk about when Frem knocked me out in 2025 and I made 11 changes, had 35 shots and didn't win a game. We'll talk about that, sure. Don't talk about the double we just did. As you can see, we are currently sitting 16th in the world rankings, just ahead of Uruguay and Nigeria, and really, really close to Cameroon and Mexico. That we could do something really close. Our main rival is Germany. Our lowest world ranking ever is 51. We're currently our highest world ranking is 3rd. Obviously, I would love to be top. But the current world ranking is 16, and I'm really happy with that. Our current captain is a name that everybody will know, and it's so nice to just coach him right now. Does it not want to give me Thomas's stats? There he is. The man from Esbjerg. The man that tormented us second season in the whole save, and the man that we played against Leipzig and scored in Germany a couple of times. We finally get to coach him. I've been looking forward to this. I said if I got the job when he was 17, 18, he would have played for me. And in the end, I think they called him up at like 2019. Yeah, we have a player up top. We've got more than just one player, though. We have got a handful of players. In terms of the hot prospects, apparently it's Thomas, even though he's one of the star. Yeppy is a hot prospect, unreal. Johnny Ibsen, all the way there at Saunders, is wanted by Spurs, unreal. Anderson at Los Angeles, great Danish player, unreal. Lars Ling at Copenhagen, I'm going to be able to use. Marcus at Copenhagen. Jesper Jeppesen, who is wanted at Rangers by, I think it is Copenhagen, unreal. We got Morch, who I think's pretty insane. Have we got the field? Yes, we do. You got Unda, who is here. Neil's a very good goalkeeper who could do very well. I'm surprised he's actually at Manchester City after leaving. I think it's definitely a Danish club, AAB, I reckon. But yeah, we look very good. Our lineup, they reckon, belongs with Yeppy in there as well. We have so much talent coming through that I can't wait. Like Run, I wouldn't mind Run even for me it is really, really nice to see. Yes, we are definitely going to do a press conference. Denmark approached me as their thing. The Danish Federation would like to welcome me. Perfect. Welcome back, YouTube. A bit of a weird way to do episode 85. I did episode 85 last night when we got the Danish job, and I feel like after watching it back, about to edit it, I miss a lot of the important things. So what I've done is, if you see this correctly, and editing Damo's made this seamlessly, that I've just cut from where I wanted to in the last episode 85 video to this one, and do it as a part 1, part 2. All we did for the rest of the 40-minute video that I did film last night is we just talked about the squad, the players, who I'm going to select for my first ever match day, etc., etc., etc. I kind of go through that in episode 87, which is in, finishes in 3 days' time when we have my first ever game of Algeria. But I thought on today's stream, let's go with a clean head. Yes, we've got the job. I'm excited. But let's go through the real nitty-gritty. We need to see how Denmark has gone, right, since we've been in charge. We need to see, what has gone on in the World Cup, Euros. Big thing you notice straight away, they lost in the semi-final of qualifying for the Euros, right, to not even make it to the tournament. So they didn't get through the group, right, and then they lost 1-0 to Slovenia in a game that I don't know if it's going to show me it or not. I'm hoping they are. And that's the first place we're going to start. When I got the job, I thought, yes, I'm going to be in the Euros. I completely didn't mention it last time. We're not there. We didn't qualify for the European Champions Cup, which is actually starting, shortly. It's actually just started. The first game of the season's already been played. The first game of the tournament, Italy beat Poland 1-0. I would have expected to be there, right? So that's the first place to start, is that even though if we can go to the nation, and I don't know if we can see, the news headlines, history, head coaches, there we go. Obviously, there's a lot of retire me in there trying to get the job. But if Julian really was a coach of his experience, right, the Danish FA really should have seen that as a failure to not make at least the final of qualifying if you didn't get through the group. They should have sacked him anyway. So I'm actually feel really good that I've now got the job under this circumstance, because it is a bit more realistic than me just retiring whoever and then, yeah. But, they had Kesper, obviously. That wasn't actually me. That was... I put my own manager in. I was like, really, I should call it retire me, Sando. And then Lardra got the job for a year, and they sacked him. I went for the job naturally, and I was like, beautiful. Unfortunately, Benitez, went and spent nearly 3 years there and was pretty successful as well. As you can see, they won 22 games, lost 11. Under me, we never played. Lardra played 10 games, lost 7, only won 45%. Benitez won about 50% of his games, which wasn't too bad. And then Jacob Mikkelsen came in, never really coached, because I was like, this Jacob Mikkelsen guy never really should get the job, but he's okay. And then they put in Jess, and I was like, no. Jess at the time was a 3-star coach, and I was already above him, so I was like, no. And then they put Mortensen in, and that really annoyed me. Were trying to get the job, because I'm like, this guy's not even 3-star. How are they picking me over him? And then Julian came in. He won 62% of his games because he got a bit more of a golden generation, but he only played the 5 and he didn't qualify for the Euros. So we intentionally sacked him, obviously, for putting in a secondary manager, and now we are in charge. And it'll be very interesting to see how we go in terms of the history. Now, in terms of the general information, as you can see, the captain at the moment is Thomas, which obviously we all agree with. He's 22, he's unbelievable. I did mention it in the last episode of 85, how good he is, but just yet again, how he is as well. And then the vice captain at the moment is Andreas Christensen. That may change, because he is 32, and he is starting to decline. And at the same side, we're going to just try and change it. Yeah, Shadow, we are live on Twitch, even for 85 part 2, We are live like we were last night. He's unreal. He came through at Esberg, Shadow. We played against him in Season 2, if you remember, because you were there for that. And he banged in goals at 16 years of age, and then has been at Leipzig ever since, banging them in as well. Right? And we've been okay. We've been okay, but not great. So now it's really important to see what's kind of gone in the schedule here. And if we go all the way back to the starting year, in the Euro Group 2, they were okay and they weren't great. Win-loss, but they did contain Iceland and Belgium. Obviously, they're better than Iceland, England, and Belgium, obviously. It's very difficult to compete. And then they went on the World Cup qualifying campaign. They got through qualifying. They then actually went into the Euros that year. I think that was a Corona year, the European Championship. Yeah, it was. So it was, instead of being played in 2020, it was played in 2021 like it will do in real life. And they lost to Italy in the quarter-final, and I believe Italy did win it that year, which they did. Belgium, by the way, won it last year, which I think is really nice. So they lost the eventual champions, and that's not bad. Like they topped their group, and I think they were very unlucky to run into Italy last year as well. If we can go to the 2024 under 29s, no. Oh, it's going to make me go through all the European competitions. Who cares, really, right? I think they topped their group. Italy finished second, and Italy got out. I remember doing it on stream. And then they had World Cup qualifying. Obviously, pretty easy group for them. They done well. In the second half, they done really well as well. And then again in the Euro League, which is where we're not being judged by the board mercifully. We're a bit out of our depth because you keep coming up against guys like France, keep coming up against Croatia, who are very close to us, as well. You like the last group had England in it, and we'll touch on what the group we actually have as well. They did okay, and in the end, look, the World Cup playoffs went really well. They made the World Cup final. They, as in the playoffs of the final, got through easy against Ireland, and yeah, so they did okay, and they did what they had to do, which was good. And they made the World Cup. And in the World Cup, this was in the 2026 World Cup. So you have the split off, obviously. They lost their friendlies leading up, which is not good. But they beat San Marino. They drew to Colombia. And they lost in the third round there as well. And I think we missed the 2022 World Cup, where they actually topped their group with Switzerland, Argentina, and Iran. And then played Brazil, who finished second. And they lost in a penalty shootout. So, yeah, they've done okay in the World Cup, but nothing really great. We then go to 2027. Obviously, it's the year we're here. And their group stage, they were hit and miss. Lost to Scotland twice. They beat Andorra as well, so they didn't top their group, and they drew to Wales on the final day, which means that they just finished in third, right? Wales had a very good time, and Scotland has a lot of good regens, but they finished on equal points, and they had to go through the semi-final, final playoffs, and they lost to Slovenia, which to me would be a failure if you're the Denmark manager to not make the Euros when your squad's this good. So now we take in charge, and in our group 3, because I think they've been relegated twice, we find ourselves, or it might just be the third group that's been selected, Group A, Group 1. I think this is us being just like, whatever, it's different groups, it's not in terms of relegation, and whatever. But if you go to all groups, we've done okay, but in like the Group A, all groups, we are in there still in the Group A selection, which is good. But yeah, we've got an interesting group. We've got Czech Republic, who have a lot of good regens. And we have Ukraine, who have a lot of good regions, and Belgium are the current European champions, right? So it's a difficult group. As a group, we're not being judged on by the board. Like, the board just want us to get in our rhythm as in charge of manager, pick a team that we find is best, and then hopefully see what we can do. And yeah, it'll be very nice to see what we can do. Now, in terms of that, that's really good, and we have a lot of good talent. But now we're going to talk about the squad that I have selected for my first international. We did talk about the squad that we were going to select in general for in episode 85, when I actually filmed that what we could do is our squad, and I actually changed it slightly. But I'm happy we got it here, right? And I'm just going to talk about the players that I think, in different positions, the players that I think that we need to go. And I think the best way to do this is to actually probably go to the squad view, right? And just, it's a lot of information on there, but you kind of need a lot of information to kind of see what we're doing. So if we go by position, right, you have to pick 3 goalkeepers. We went with Yepi, experience, played a lot of times. I think he's still the best keeper around. But as you can see, no one's really that great. Marcus we called up because he had a good year in the game at AGF. And Thomas Nielsen's a regen with the regen face pack that we have at Midtjylland as well, is a not bad keeper. However, it is a position that we really need to grow players. And this is the beauty of being in charge of a Danish side and being in charge of the international team. We now have a duty to really develop a Danish goalkeeper. We don't really have a leading one, and our best one is about to retire, and the next two in line aren't, knocking down the door with ability. Oh my goodness. We have one at SFB, right? Which means that if you go to the development centre and go to his loan, into the loans, right, we do have Leafy Christian. Now, Leafy, right, at 17 years of age, does look decent. However, his national team report does mean he would be as good as Yepi and could be even better. We have a couple keepers like this, but we can control Leafy's kind of progression. This is the beauty of the save now. We've got a kid at 17 years of age that we need to nurture and grow to play first team football, and we are aiming to win the 2034-2038 World Cup because we have a mixture of youth and a mixture of experience. A lot of that experience may retire by the 2034 World Cup. However, I really do think that the 2034-2038 World Cup, when a lot of these 22-year-olds are in their prime, like Yepi and co, will show you who I mean, right? We need to get people that are of the 17, 18-year-old of those ages developed and, at a level, and, by the age of 21, 22, ready to play international football. That means with Leafy here, in terms of goals, and there's a few positions that we could do it with, is that we need to either loan him out what we did to a club that's in a division that he's a better than, and he's, as much as he conceded 60 goals, he has come on leaps and bounds. I've mentioned it during the SFB episodes. Secondly, though, there might come a stage in the save where I'm going to have to start going, okay, I've got the league, I'm cleared by the league by 20 points, whatever. Sorry, Empagesi, sorry, Jacob. I need to give Leafy, who's probably third choice at the club at the moment, about 5 or 6 games in a row to play in the league to start his development and really increase, right? And if I start doing that and giving him a level that's well beyond his ability, he will eventually increase into a level of a goalkeeper that is good enough for the league, thus being a goalkeeper that he could be really good. So, for the Danish squad. So, that's something that we need to think about. And there's other people like that for me. Like, Lars is looking unbelievable, right? And his national team report is literally unbelievable. It's really, really, really good to see, and obviously Lars, yet again. This is a bit easy to do because this guy's going to be so good that I'm probably going to use him in the league anyway, right? That he's just got to develop into an absolute monster. Like, I just don't understand how well this guy's growing, but he's in the same boat. So if you go back to the Danish squad, we have a bit more of an in-depth look. You've got a 33-year-old goalkeeper, 2 goalkeepers not really knocking on the door that can do a job, and then you're looking at centre-back. Anderson's going to start probably in my first ever game. He's 32. You got Ruin Rasmussen, who I particularly want to sign at. SFB. Would be interesting, right? But Andre Christian's 32. Victor Nielsen, who is probably the best centre-back we have, is 29, meaning that for the 2030 World Cup, he's just in his prime. For the 2034 World Cup, which is the World Cup that I think we're most likely to win, or the 2038 for the series, right? He's going to be, 2038 he'll be retired, but for the 2034 he'll be that experienced centre-back that's played a heap of caps at 34, 35, 36, however age he is. I'm not going to do the math. But yet again, we've got to start bleeding in a younger centre-back at some stage to take his spot, but at the same time, he would be really, really decent, And then we've got Oliver, who's a 26-year-old centre-back, and as you can see, these guys will be in his prime. Holgerberg, at the moment, brilliant. 2030 World Cup, probably be his last one for me. I'm going to play him to the 2030 World Cup, and if he doesn't retire by then, I am going to just drop him from the Danish squad because he's too old, right? But yet again, another guy that's going to be good, right? And then you got Robert Skov at 32 is another one, and you got a backup right back, and all of a sudden you go, okay, well, your right back is 32 years old. Who's your actual right back? He's 29. Next World Cup, great. The World Cup after, we need a right back. So all of a sudden, I'm thinking in my head, who do I have at SFB that is going to fill this spot? No one. Is there a Danish option in the league that's going to become decent from my scouting pool, with my nation scouting pool, my nation report, and I look at decent, as you can see, goalkeepers I was doing this with, and Leafy's on the list, that are going to be 4-star or better, right, and that I need to maybe sign, right? So we go to defenders that play on the right-hand side, and we click these off, we take goalkeepers. Already there's a few here, and obviously Rune Nielsen is probably up there with one of the guys that could do it, and he's already developing very nicely, and we could call him up at 22, which is definitely an option in the future. And you got Italevi, who was very close to being called up at 23, that could do the job. However, is it worth maybe pinching two of these guys to get him at SFB, get him growing really well, or one of the youngsters? That's the sort of thing that we got happening with the save. So now if we run by the rest of the team, Poulsen's 28, he'll be in his prime for the next World Cup, 2034 World Cup. probably would still play with those physicals. He'd probably still be good enough. At the 2038 World Cup, might need to have a look. Johnny Isbin is a 21-year-old never cap. Unreal in the league. He's been banging in goals. I'm going to give him his first cap coming up. He looks really good, and this is the sort of thing we need to do. Johnny Isbin has been tutored to go to Spurs in the past, never got the move. Got to play him in the middle of the park, Damsgaard, 27, going to be in his prime for the 2034 World Cup. Probably the guy at PSG is probably going to still be good enough to play for me. 2038, need to go with someone else. Yepi, obviously. Right now, Yepi at 21, unreal, brilliant, great. We love him, right? At some point, Yepi will probably leave SFB, grow even further, and by the time this guy's in his prime, he could win us a World Cup. Same thing about Darmian. Darmian is going to be, in his prime at the 2030 World Cup. 2034 World Cup is going to be even more at 31, the experienced prime that he is. Maybe the window opens up. Thomas Olsen's going to be here forever. We know that as well. And then you're having a look at the bench and you go, Andreas Christensen. But outside of that, we have Fjøgård, that's unbelievable. We have Mads, who was surprised to be picked for the Danish squad. But like Lars, at 18 years of age, looks unbelievably good. He's already 2.5 star. I'm going to cap him. I'm going to use him. He might be a guy that from AAB we look to pick up. And Lars and Mads, we probably play in SFB to get him growing as much as possible. It's something that we could do. And then, the rest of the team, we just need to find a balance of youth and whatever. You got Victor, who's a 25-year-old fullback. That's a good backup to have. You got Maritas, who was very unlucky not to start, coming up as well. But the squad has got a mixture of good youth, of good experience, but it also has its flaws. We need a centre-back probably at a younger age pushing through. We probably need a right-back pushing through. There's even a case for a left-back, but I've already found that because it's a left-back that's joining at SFB. That'll be in another episode that we picked up from Midtjylland. But definitely a goalkeeper. And then we're starting to go, okay, and maybe a winger needs to come through. And this is where, in the nation pool, I'm really, really happy if I go and just go by all positions. Right, and we reset it all, and I go by potential. Anyone like this deserves. We have an 18-year-old who can play out wide or in behind at strike. We got Mads Christensen, who I'm looking at OB, and I'm already thinking at 19 years of age, I'm calling this guy up, right? He's definitely good enough. He has a relegation release fee. I might even pick him up for me because they just got relegated. Jeppe Lawson, our former guy, can play left back and can play left wing. Johnny we've called up, right? And then you got Blum, you got a 16-year-old, you got Leafy, and these guys' potentials could all change with good form. And then you're looking down the list, you've already got an 18-year-old 2.5 star. Finn Elgaard's already 18 at 20 and can play in the role decently well. You've got Jeppe who's been selected. You got a wing back that's not bad. And all of a sudden you're going with guys that we've played against. Christian Ramayusin. Former guy of SFB, or was it the wrong one? There's another Ramayusin, isn't there? Like the one we used to have. That wasn't him. I thought that was him. Doesn't matter. But, another one that's not bad. But you keep looking at the list and you keep going, hang on a second, there's guys. All these guys could, with the right growth, play for Denmark. And all of a sudden we've gone from a squad that is in aging in areas, but we have the players coming through. There's only a couple spots. Goalkeeper, right back, maybe even centre back, and maybe out wide on the left or the right. But even then, we've got players that can kind of do the role. We've got players in and around the league. And that brings me to my last point. If players are playing well in the league, and they're knocking down the door, and they're Danish, and they're in form, they're probably going to get selected by me, because if they're in form, they're good enough to play for Denmark. We have got a bit of a generation that isn't golden, I would say, but is really, really strong. I really think with the right tutoring of the youngsters coming through, and maybe even getting them at SFB to monitor their progress, which may hurt me maybe winning the Champions League, but by taking a bit longer, by growing a bit more homegrown talent than buying, talent that's already ready-made, it makes the save that little bit more rise of a nation like, right? I think it's a really good way to go about it. Because you've got to remember, if I win the Champions League first, I've only got that next World Cup to win it. If I win the World Cup first, it doesn't matter. We can take as long as we want to win the Champions League. So I really think let's aim to go for the 2034-2038 World Cup. Take the 2030 World Cup campaign, qualifying, getting to the World Cup as a bit of a cider for ourselves and a bit of a cider for Danish football, and see where we're going to be. Obviously, don't flop because we wouldn't get the job. We will get the sack, right? And we don't want that to happen either. Anyhow, that's where the team is. That's what happened with the recent managers. I thought Benitez was really good. I thought they really should have made the Euros. They didn't, and hence why we have the job. The players look really good. The board want us just to be competitive in the European International League, And then they want us to go and focus on, obviously be qualifying for the World Cup and qualifying for the Euros, and then obviously fighting, to win both, but fighting in those competitions in the knockout stages of them. Anyhow, it's a very good team to be part of. I'll just quickly flick through the under-21s. Maybe you guys want to see like the best potential in here, and maybe players that are, got the best ability at the moment. There's definitely people that could be called up. Even like Martin Overby is really close to being called up as well. Under-20s, we've got similar players as well. We've got a Schultz that looks really decent too. Under-19s, obviously there's a lot of potential in there in the 19s as well. And then in the 18s, we've obviously got, people that look really good. And this Jacob guy could be one of the best. And I'm telling you right now, I am scouting him for SFB, because if he's that good with his nation report, I'm probably going to pick him up to play for SFB and monitor his progress. Anyway, that's going to be the end of episode 85, and I feel like the way I've worded this and gone about this is a lot better than me talking 40 minutes about who I'm going to pick for my first ever squad. That's the squad, right, that you've seen me pick. That's what it's going to be in the Algeria game in episode 87 as well, which I'm about to go film. And obviously, I feel like we're going in the right spot here with Denmark. From Damo and everybody else here on the stream, it's a really exciting time. The save is really kicking off. We're champions. We've done the double. We're looking good domestically. We're looking like the best team domestically. And we've got money to spend. Right? Episode 86. I'm not going to ruin it for you, end of season review. But we get a big chunk of transfer budget. Right? Which makes it very easy to do what I'm saying here. Buying maybe some Danish talent at a young age. And tutoring them through playing in the league. Right? And getting them growing for the Danish national team. Anyhow, from Damo and everybody else here, I'll see you next time, which will be the end of season review, which I've already filmed, and then I'll see you for episode 87, which is our first game in charge of Denmark against Algeria. And that, ladies and gentlemen, that is going to be very, very, very interesting, as they are 40th in the world. See you next time. Thank you, and goodbye.